I'm Erika Moralez-Perez and I have been training the GDPR element of the Digital Leadership course within PD for the last 2 years. I'm a corporate and commercial lawyer by trade, and one of my favourite areas of practice is data protection law. Oh, I hear you groan. However, there is never a dull moment in the world of data protection, as you're about to learn. This webinar is a whistle stop in why you should be considering updating your data protection policy for home working. In 5 very worthwhile minutes of your time, I'm going to tell you why you should be considering revising your data protection policy, the key considerations of doing so, educating your workforce, and what to do next. I estimate that this short webinar will save you approximately 4 hours of your day in researching this for yourself, so it's got to be worthwhile. So here goes. So number 1, why should you be considering revising your data protection policy? Well, the COVID-19 pandemic is quite possibly the most major world event since World War II, and there is no doubt that it has affected us all considerably. Schools and the retail industry has been all but closed, and businesses in general are either having to adapt to the current climate or temporarily close as well. Whilst many of us have been focused on furloughing staff or concentrating on how to get out of our contractual obligations, data protection has been forgotten, as it often is, but it is more important than ever. Those fortunate enough to be able to adapt and have our workforces working from home will need to consider how our systems and processes will serve those home users, and that, of course, includes the transferring of the data that we use as a business. It may be that your business is already set up with VPNs, encryption, and secure methods of transferring data, but you also need to ensure that the workforce is aware of their obligations to continue to uphold your obligations in respect of the data that you process. Therefore, there has been no better time to road test your business's robustness in respect of data protection. So number 2, what are the key considerations? Well, when thinking about what might be missing from your existing data protection policy, consider the following. What devices are your employees using to do their jobs from home? Are these their own devices, or are they devices that you've provided to them? This is relevant because it will determine what systems are already uploaded onto those devices and how secure or not they are. How do they access your systems and storage facilities? Is it secure? Is it via VPN? With VPNs available today at the cost of a few quid a month, it's available to all of us, and we should most certainly be considering having these in place. What data is transferred in order for employees to do their jobs? Is it absolutely necessary that they have that data to carry out their tasks, or is it not? If it's not, then they most certainly should not be receiving it. How is that data stored once received by employees? Is it secure? Is it on C drives on their home devices that any of their families can access? How is that stored? When should they be deleting emails? How should employees store the personal data when they're working from home? Do they have access to your networked drives, for example? The use of wireless networks. Anybody that's been on one of my courses will know that I am absolutely against unsecured wireless networks. Consider enforcing the use of passwords on people's wireless networks, or where possible, ask them to use a wired connection instead of a wireless one. How do they dispose of the personal data? Think about how long they need to keep it for and when they should be disposing of it, and set out some provisions as to how they dispose of it. Certainly, we don't want to be putting personal hard copy data in our wheelie bins. Is your IT security up to scratch? Consider what your internal processes are and how secure they are. Should employees be backing up their data, and how do they go about doing this? It's important because if they are storing data in different locations that you may not have access to, you need to ensure that there's a backup. Consider advising your employees that all emails containing personal data must be encrypted. Also, consider telling them that every single email containing personal data has to be marked confidential. So number 3, education. So following this webinar, no doubt you will update your data protection policy and either email it to your employees or upload it to your intranet, or perhaps both. But remember, The responsibility of the data rests with the business as data controller or processor, as the case may be. So my advice is to roll out any updates to your policies with a short training webinar or conference call, setting out the key updates to the document. We all know that with businesses going on as usual for many of us and juggling running households and the dreaded homeschooling of children, reading a revised data protection policy may not be priority 1A on most people's to-do lists. So what's your call to action today? What to do next? Your job for today is to review your data protection policy, consider the key considerations that I set out earlier in today's webinar, and revise your systems and processes accordingly. Easier said than done, I know. As I always train my delegates, prevention is definitely better than cure, and a couple of well-spent hours today could save you many more wasted hours in the future and potentially costly fines and reputational damage. Thanks for watching, stay home and stay safe.